All right, I've been lurking on this sub for years, reading all your creepy stories, and I've always thought, man, nothing that wild has ever happened to me. But the more I think about it, the more I realize I've got something to share. It's not like demonic possession or Bigfoot chasing me through the woods, but it's stuck with me for over a decade, and I still get chills when I think about it. I've never told anyone the full story, not even my family, because I'm not sure they'd believe me, or maybe I don't want to relive it out loud. But here goes. This is going to be long, so bear with me. When I was 13, my family decided to go camping in the mountains. Not like a cushy RV park with Wi-Fi and flush toilets, but deep in the mountains. Some national forest in the Pacific Northwest. A good 3-hour drive from anything resembling civilization. My dad was all about getting back to nature, and my mom, well, she went along with it because she loved him, even if she wasn't exactly thrilled about sleeping on the ground. My older sister, Jess, who was 16 at the time, was pissed about the whole thing. She wanted to stay home, text her friends, and probably sneak out to some party. Then there was me, stuck in that awkward phase where I was too old to be excited about roasting marshmallows, but too young to have any say in the matter. The drive up was miserable. Jess had her earbuds in, blasting some angsty pop punk, and I was crammed in the back seat with a duffel bag digging into my ribs. Dad kept pointing out scenic views, while Mom pretended to care, but I could tell she was already regretting this. By the time we got to the campsite, it was late afternoon, and the sun was already dipping behind the peaks. The air was crisp, and the trees, tall, dark evergreens, felt like they were closing in on us. The campsite wasn't even a proper site, just a clearing off a dirt road with a fire pit someone had built out of rocks. No other campers, no rangers, just us and the woods. We set up the tents, 2 of them, one for my parents and one for me and Jess. I remember feeling a little proud, because Dad let me hammer in some of the stakes, even though Jess rolled her eyes and said I was doing it wrong. By the time we were done, it was getting dark, and Mom started working on dinner while Dad got a fire going. That first night, we sat around the fire, and that's when things started to feel off. The fire was crackling, and the smell of burning pine was sharp in the air. Mom had made chili in a cast-iron pot, and we were eating it out of tin bowls, the kind that burn your fingers if you're not careful. Dad was telling one of his dumb stories about his college days, and Jess was ignoring him, poking at the fire with a stick. I was just sitting there, feeling the cold creep in from the edges of the clearing, watching the flames dance. It was quiet, except for the fire and the occasional hoot of an owl or rustle in the underbrush. Normal forest stuff, right? But then I noticed something. The noises, the little animal sounds, the wind in the trees, they stopped, like completely. It was like someone hit mute on the forest. I didn't say anything at first because I thought maybe I was imagining it. I was 13, my brain was always inventing drama. But then Jess looked up from the fire and I could tell she noticed it too. Her eyes got wide and she stopped poking the stick into the embers. "Dad," she said, her voice quieter than usual. "Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" Dad said, still chuckling from his story. "Nothing," she said. "That's the problem. It's too quiet." Mom laughed, but it was one of those nervous laughs, like when she was trying to keep things light. "Oh, come on, Jess. It's just the woods. Animals go quiet sometimes." Dad nodded, but I saw him glance toward the trees, like he was checking. I followed his gaze, And that's when I saw it, just for a second. A shape out in the darkness, just beyond the firelight. It wasn't clear, like a shadow that didn't quite match the trees around it. Tall, thin, and wrong. Like it was standing too still to be a person, but too human-shaped to be anything else. I froze. My spoon was halfway to my mouth, and I just sat there, staring into the dark. I wanted to say something, but my throat felt tight, like the words were stuck. Jess must have seen my face because she whispered, "What? What is it?" "Nothing," I mumbled, because what was I going to say? That I saw a creepy shadow man in the woods? I'd sound like an idiot. But I kept staring, and the more I looked, the more I was sure it was still there. Not moving, just watching. Dad must have sensed something was up because he stood and grabbed the flashlight. "Probably just a deer," he said, but his voice wasn't as confident as usual. He shone the light into the trees, sweeping it back and forth. Nothing, just trunks and branches and shadows. But I swear, when the light passed over that spot, I saw the shape move, just a little, like it stepped back into the dark. "Okay, time for bed," Mom said, clapping her hands like she was trying to break the tension. "Big day of hiking tomorrow." Jess and I crawled into our tent, and I could tell she was freaked out too, even if she wouldn't admit it. She kept her flashlight on, pointed at the tent ceiling, and whispered, "You saw something, didn't you?" "I don't know," I said, because I didn't. Not really. It could have been my imagination, or a trick of the light. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. That night, I barely slept. Every rustle outside the tent made my heart race. Jess was out like a light, snoring softly, but I kept my eyes glued to the tent wall, like I could see through it if I stared hard enough. At one point, I thought I heard footsteps. Not loud, not stomping, but soft, like someone was walking carefully around the campsite. I told myself it was Dad checking the fire, or Mom going to the bathroom, but I didn't hear the tent zipper or any voices. Just those slow, deliberate steps. The next morning, everything seemed normal. The sun was out, the birds were chirping, and Dad was making coffee over the fire like nothing happened. I wanted to ask him if he'd heard anything, but he was in such a good mood, whistling and talking about the trail we were going to hike, that I didn't want to ruin it. Jess didn't say anything either, but I caught her glancing at the trees a few times, like she was looking for something. The rest of the trip was weird. Not bad exactly, but off. We hiked, we fished, we ate s'mores, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Every night I'd lie awake, listening for those footsteps, and sometimes I'd hear them again, soft, careful, circling. I started noticing little things too, like how the fire seemed to burn lower some nights, even when we piled on wood, or how our food bags, hung high in a tree to keep bears away, looked like they'd been messed with, the knots looser than Dad had tied them. The last night was the worst. We were sitting around the fire again, and Dad was telling another story. But I wasn't listening. I was staring into the woods, and there it was again, that shape. Clearer this time, like it was closer. Tall, thin, with arms that seemed too long, just standing there, half hidden by a tree. I don't know how I didn't scream. I just gripped my knees and stared, waiting for it to move. It didn't. It just stood there, and I swear I could feel its eyes on me, even though I couldn't see them. Jess noticed me staring and followed my gaze. She went pale. "Dad," she whispered, her voice shaking. "There's something out there." This time Dad didn't laugh it off. He grabbed the flashlight and stood, shining it into the trees. "Stay here," he said, and he walked toward the edge of the clearing. Mom grabbed my hand, and I could feel her trembling. Jess was clutching her phone, even though there was no signal out here. Dad was gone for maybe a minute, but it felt like forever. When he came back, his face was tight, like he was trying not to scare us. "Nothing out there," he said, but his voice was too calm, like he was forcing it. "Just a trick of the light." We went to bed early that night, and Dad stayed up, sitting by the fire with a hatchet in his lap. I don't know if he saw something or not, but he didn't sleep. I could see his shadow through the tent, sitting there, still as a statue, until the sun came up. We packed up and left the next morning, a day earlier than planned. Dad said it was because a storm was coming, but the sky was clear, and I think we all knew that wasn't the real reason. The drive home was quiet. Jess didn't even put her earbuds in, just stared out the window. Mom kept trying to make small talk, but it fell flat. I didn't say anything either. I just kept replaying that shape in my head, wondering what it was, why it was watching us. Years later, I tried to bring it up with Jess. She just shook her head and said, "Don't. I don't want to think about it. Dad's gone now, heart attack a few years back, and Mom doesn't talk about the trip either." I've tried looking up that area online, thinking maybe there'd be stories about weird stuff in those woods, but there's nothing. Just maps and hiking guides and pictures of pretty views. I'm 25 now, and I still don't know what I saw. Maybe it was just my imagination, a kid's brain making monsters out of shadows. But I don't think so. That feeling, the way the air felt heavy, the way the forest went silent, it wasn't just in my head. Something was out there watching us, and I don't think it was human. I haven't been camping since. I don't think I ever will. Every time I close my eyes and picture that fire, that clearing, those trees, I see that shape again, standing just out of sight, waiting. And I wonder if it's still there, in those mountains, watching for the next family that dares to sit around a fire in the dark.